In the bottom left, our Terran player last. And his opponent in the bottom right is Stork.
Do you think Stork's going to cheese?
I actually really very much so do think he's going to cheese.
Okay.
I guess that, let's not say cheese, because some of these things that Protoss do, they look like cheese, but to be honest, you can transition out of them fine. But
Yeah.
I think he's not going to make
they
a
just
gateway
feel
and then
like
a nexus
cheese, yeah.
and then 2 more gates in a robo. I think that's something that we have to be very careful to distinguish in Brood War, because a lot of stuff that looks like, well, if it doesn't work, then you lose, is not the case at all.
Oh, yeah.
For instance, some people would look at a 9-pool, right? 9-pool speedling rush. A lot of times you'll just kill somebody with that straight up, but it's not a cheese. Zerg can transition out of that.
Yeah, it actually takes a lot to kill someone completely in this game. You can really stay alive for a long time. Like, that last game, I mean, Stork was up 30 supply
You know what I'd say
for
is,
a really long time, but he's like, well, if I move in right now, this would be a mistake, because this is the one way he might come back.
I've got a good analogy here.
Okay.
So, if you want to look at how long people last in matches, let's compare. Let's make it like StarCraft 1 is boxing, StarCraft 2 is MMA. In StarCraft 2, you can get somebody to submit really fast. If you can get a standard lead, you can really get in there. StarCraft 1, and this is nothing to compare the two sports as far as like skill and how they work, but just sometimes it takes a long game to take a boxer down.
Yeah.
Someone can be rocked, they can be knocked on the floor. We let them count, let them get back up.
Yeah. That is that's a pretty good way to put it. I like that.
Yeah, and of course
And
occasionally
knockout punches occur.
Yeah,
Protoss has a few of them.
Yeah, for sure. But in this case, I don't want to. When we see, for instance, what Last was doing in that game against Ware, not really a cheese, guys.
No.
It's actually just a very technical rush. It's meant to give him an edge. You might kill a Zerg doing that. Zerg can certainly fall apart. Protoss has a lot of other stuff like that as well. I mean, you can see Protoss proxy buildings and sort of bounce back from it. Just something I want to put out there, because especially in gaming, everybody talks about the game in such a hyperbolic way that we're not really even talking about it.
Yeah.
So this game, Last, is doing the 2016-2017 TVP meta of quick expand.
Yeah.
This was a build that was dismissed a lot of times in the early days of Brood War as impossible to do. But it seems like now people have really figured out how to get away with it.
Yeah, they really have. People repair the bunker very well, get their siege tanks out, and know all the little branches that come off that. And this is exactly the type of build that Stork probably is assuming that Last will do. He really loves this style. This is one of the most common macro openings that there is. And,
Yeah.
Last is really just a mechanical player. That's what he is. If he gets his mechanics really rolling and can just make a ton of units and go after you, that's the best case scenario for him.
So for all my bluster about how Stork's going to do something kind of crazy, it looks like he's not going to do that at all. He added some of the probes on later on the cast, so he should be getting a Nexus pretty quickly here.
Yeah, probably like just rallying ranged Dragoons to hit the bunker a little bit, make him pull the SCVs and whatever, and take that expansion. But where does he go after that?
It's a good question. I guess one of the things you want to ask yourself is, does Protoss try to continue on with this rate of expanding, or does Protoss try to then get a tech off to base? In older days, we saw a lot more people just try to keep expanding, like those games I've seen you play against G5, where G5 just keeps this kind of crazy growth rate.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of games where the Protoss actually powers on 2 base in Korea.
Yes.
And tries to get to Arbiters and get a bunch, gets a bunch of gateways.
Well, the reason why that is kind of the new standard is that there's a bunch of timing attacks that Terrans have figured out in these more modern years that just kill. Like, for instance, a lot of times you'll see, especially if the Terran is better than the Protoss, they'll just kill them with a 4-factory attack. And it's like, that was never a thing back in the day. That was just not how anyone played. No one had any sharp timings that were 4 factories on 2 bases to kill a Protoss that took a 3rd.
Yeah.
If you wanted to do that, you'd go like 6-fact and try to roll them over. But anyways, we could see something like that. And because those timings are very popular, things like rushing up to an Arbiter on 2 base definitely are quite standard from the Protosses that we're seeing now.
Also, it's a pretty desirable push distance for Last. So this is what you want to do when you get this expand up. Terran has that bunker out there because he doesn't want the CC or the barracks or the depot to get hit, so it's out in the open. Since Protoss was going to get Dragoon range anyways, you just park these Dragoons out here. And you're not, I mean, if you kill the bunker, then, oh, that is great. But normally you know that they're going to repair it in time.
Yeah.
But this is forcing them to spend minerals to repair that. And when you get 4, occasionally you dive in. It's 4, right? Or is it 5?
Well, at 6, you one-shot
6.
SCVs.
That's right. I'm sorry. It's 6.
Yeah. If you want to try to 2-vol, you can dive in at this point, but it's generally not worth it. You're going to lose all your shields in like 2 seconds.
So you can try to dive on top of the SCVs. That's what we're going to see here. Now, the Marines each target Dragoons with a different order. You can't target fire out of a bunker. Quite important to note. So a lot of times, even though it looks like you could lose a bunch of Dragoons, usually the Marines are all attacking different Dragoons.
Yeah, it's very, very true. As that tank siege is up, you will be able to push us all back. That was very well done by Stork. He got like basically the max amount of damage that he could out of that. Caused some lost mining time, killed a couple SCVs.
Yeah.
And that stuff is all important because, you know, with this build, against like 1 gate range expand, your CC is finishing as they're making their Nexus, so you have to start catching up in these little ways.
So this is something that became more popular in the later years of Brood War, this technique that Stork is going for, which is a mid-game Reaver. A lot of the earlier builds in PvT were centered around getting the Reaver as soon as possible and dropping, but it seems like the very smart Protosses at the time figured out that they actually don't get that defensive in the mid-game after they see the initial rush. If they see the Dragoons up there and they see the Nexus, sometimes they'll dismiss it. Now, Last is somebody who just is so safe. I don't think that the mid-game Reaver is going to work. And one of my concerns when I see Protosses do this is that if the Reaver doesn't do any damage, I think Protoss is behind.
I kind of agree with you if it doesn't do damage, but if you do the Reaver just right, and it's not going to do damage, by the way. Look how many turrets
there's
he made.
no way it could
He's made like 5 or 6 turrets already. I've seen 5. There might even be a 6th in there near the main CC. But
I did once see Legionnaire do this, where he had an observer come in there and take hits, and then just ran the, the shuttle through.
Well, he is the Reaver
you're
King.
crazy, man.
That's for sure. But look, as long as he does not lose all of this, the Reaver has some utility. Like,
certainly.
I'll talk more about that in a second because this is about to occur.
Okay,
Last defense is way too good.
I know, every turret is placed absolutely perfectly. So, yeah, you are right. A Reaver shooting at vultures or even a clump of tanks is always a good thing.
Yeah, like, for instance, to push up, now this is the standard part, right? He's getting ready to take his third. He already started his third command center. You land these buildings, it makes a wall, you go take your third. But if you bring a shuttle with a Reaver over there and you have a few Dragoons and stuff, getting up that ramp is annoying. You know, at this point in the game, you might have 5 tanks, 6 tanks, something like that. And see, he sees him coming up right now. Where is that shuttle? See,
the shuttle, I think, is in the bottom center. Am I wrong?
I think it's actually up, going towards the space right now.
Center left?
I believe that is it. But anyways, he was too late on this, I would say.
Shuttle speed.
Like, there's already tanks up here. If nothing is on the high ground and you already have units up here, then it's very hard to take. But he doesn't do that this time. So.
Well, this is something. So you want to abuse the fact that the Reaver, it doesn't outrange a tank, by the way, but you can just start to hit stuff that's where the tank isn't. Okay, now this is a little bit too ambitious. But he's going for it. I mean, with shuttle speed.
Oh, there was another one in that main base. So he's sacrificing everything here. Ooh, not going to get as much as he wanted.
Did he even... He got 1 SCV? Am I correct about this?
I wasn't sure exactly how many he got. It was 1 or 2. That's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah.
Well, that one didn't work so well. It's kind of funny. You see Protosses start to try to skirt on the edge of a turret. Oftentimes, against a turtle Terran, that's the worst thing you can do. Go straight over a turret. Because the turrets are spaced like perfectly, so they cover everything. It's kind of weird. Like sometimes. So if you're in the middle, you get hit by both.
Yeah. Yeah, with shuttle speed, you can do something, but I think that was an impulse play there by Stork.
Yeah.
So now he doesn't have the Reaver.
Killing the 2 SCVs that were making the depots was cool, just because he needed those depots. He was supply locked at 70 for a long time. But yeah, Stork is in what I consider to be a tough spot. I like that he's expanding upwards, but the first push that comes out of Last is not something he's going to be able to really fight against very easily.
Yeah. And Last is going to have a lot of momentum with this push. Now, Last may wait until he's maxed out to come out. You can do this as Terran, where you just sit back and you sort of almost play single player for a while. Because you know that the Protoss basically can't break you, and Protoss has to double down on their production. So what he did for a while was cut production out of the gateways. He's teching to Arbiters, and he's going to make an insane amount of gateways. Like a completely crazy number.
Whereas on last side, he's going to want to make probably about 9 factories and really get that rally going. We'll see if he goes for 2-1 before pushing out, but like basically once you have your full infrastructure up, if you can rally in, like you're happy with your siege tank count, you can rally in like, you know, between 6 and 9 vultures at a time.
Yeah.
It becomes very difficult if you get any position on the map for a Protoss to break you. And this army right now that Stork has cannot fight against this.
Yeah.
Last has a better army right now.
And it's a good number of gateways. But the gateways aren't spread. None of them are in the main here. So he's going to try to Zealot bomb here. And then, just that. He drops a Zealot onto the tank in the front. All the other tanks fire, and they blow up that tank. You trade one Zealot for one tank. Always a good exchange for the Protoss. Zealot legs is not done either, by the way. And Protoss basically can't attack the Terran.
Yeah.
In fact, if you see them without Zealot legs, push forward even further.
Yes. When the Zealot legs comes out, that's when it gets scary and you need the vultures in front. But before that, the Zealots are just nothing. Now,
Stork's response is the correct one to go around and try to get from behind, but I don't think he left enough units here in the front to keep the Nexus safe.
Yeah, the Nexus is very likely going to go down here. Can he actually break through?
You might be able to. I've seen some crazy stuff here.
Oh, slow Zealots trying to break this.
Gross.
Gross. Ew. But this counter push is actually doing pretty well. The tank being siege, the SimCity really helping him out right now.
I think this game might just end. Oh, that's cute. 1 DT. Yeah, sometimes you can have 1 DT, you drop it, hit stuff, and once they scan, you pick back up. But Stork is basically, I think, just going to lose this game.
It definitely looks like that right now. This hold by last is pretty strong, and he's killing this Nexus, so that's super rough.
We can chalk some of this up to the Lost Reaver, but also it just seems like Last is sort of a better, cleaner player.
Yes.
And look, he knows exactly where to go. He's not going to try to be overly ambitious and push into the main. Instead, he's going to rotate up here, get this middle base out.
Killing that is like sealing the deal, basically.
Pretty much,
Last is still sitting here on 3 bases. He's feeling fantastic. He hasn't really lost too many siege tanks this game.
And
good targeting by Last, not letting the siege tanks hit the
He's letting the vultures
Zealots.
clean this up.
Yeah. If the siege tanks shoot, because see, what he's trying to do is draw the splash damage onto the siege tanks there. But it looks like he'll actually clear this without losing the Nexus, right?
No, he got the
he
Nexus.
did get the Nexus.
He targeted that down. That's what he was firing at.
He's so dirty good.
Yeah.
See, I just have like a burning Nexus there, and I'm just like, oh, I'm so sad. I'm going to lose now. But he kills that base, and that's fantastic.
Well, we've seen Protoss come back from this, but against a player the caliber of Last, it's kind of hard to imagine. You know, at this point in time, Protoss is scrambling to gain control of his side of the map. It's just really tough, man.
Yeah, and you can see that Last is so much on top of like how to macro this correctly, right? Because when you're doing pushes like this, you want to rally in vultures, so his gas peaks, he added a ton of add-ons there to rebuild his tanks that he just lost now, right? So he's going to get the right actual composition again, like plenty of siege tanks in there. He has armories going at this point. He's going to want to get some vessels with EMP out, and that's like every tool that he's looking for right now.
Now, I will say, Stork has done a remarkable job of continuing to macro up despite this. He's actually ahead in supply, albeit very slightly. But it's still pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, you want to be pretty far up in supply as Protoss at a situation like this. Like, if you're both sitting at, like, 150, that's actually normally Terran advantage.
Yeah, pretty much.
What you want as Protoss is to be maxed with a big bank, and I guess that sounds like everyone wants that. But
so Last realizes that Protoss is probably going to have Dragoons spread out everywhere to try to make sure he can reclaim those bases. So there's nothing to keep these probes alive over here.
Yeah, this was really brainy.
And then you just litter this with mines. Sometimes these mines end up going off later on in the game when there's an attacking unit in line with that army.
That was really, really good, actually. You got a good amount of units there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
With probes there. Definitely worth it to just add that one little dropship in, but it's, you know, it takes speed and stuff, and you don't see a lot of Terrans add that in at this point after 2 successful pushes.
I think +2 should be finishing up for Protoss, but the upgrade advantage is going to be pretty tremendous here for last. Now, again, I actually do really want to emphasize, Stork is maxed out, or nearly maxed out, pretty beautifully, considering that he lost half of his bases in the earlier part of this game.
What does he do with the Arbiter now? He has the Arbiter, he sells a speed shuttle, he has a good chunk of units, but if he does something like recalls on a minefield or gets EMP'd right away...
I don't think you can recall here. You'll lose the game if you recall.
I
That's
agree
what Terran wants.
Like, Last is super preparing for that. I don't even see a 4th command center that he started, so he's like really just getting ready for a death push, it looks like.
Well, usually what Protoss wants to do is when Terran moves out, you try to counter, and when they go back to defend it, you run away.
Yeah.
You want to drag the game out, but it's very hard to do. Now, can he get a good stasis maybe on the center line of these tanks? Not bad, actually. I'm not sure this tank line seems to go to a comical distance. And with the Zealot... Hold on a second. Is he going to do this?
Oh, those DTs dropped on the siege tanks do clear a few off. That is a lot of siege tanks, though. He is going to have to pull back, I think.
I think you're right. Oh, great storm. You know what? Actually, I think he goes for it.
I don't know.
Just start to target down those tanks.
He's going to lose just about every single unit here.
That's actually a win for Protoss, I think, because if you got the tank count that low, you just go back and remax.
I loved the size storm. It's just like as soon as the Zealots die, if the Protoss stays, they better be getting the sickest value because the Dragoons get erased in like 2 seconds.
I think the rationale is that because he had stormed on top of those tanks, the Dragoons can start to get easier pot shots off. Oh, this is funny.
Not something you see every day.
Yeah, I guess that works.
Arbiters have like the worst attack in the game.
Same damage as a probe or something like that. Like
it's 10 explosive. Explosive's bad, so it does 5 to a lot of stuff. Like.
Yeah. Okay, but it seems like Last has not slowed down. Gateways are being positioned here in the upper right. It's very important. If you can get 3 or 4 up there, you usually feel safe, even if Terran gets some kind of good foothold on your side of the map.
All right. Well, without a 4th base actually mining, Last is not in as dominating a position as he once was. Like, he played such a strong and nice early game, and he hasn't played poorly since then. Like, I like the Vulture drop. That move out he just did, Stork did surprisingly well against. I love that he got the Psy Storm there. Some Protosses skip that. Stork is not one of those Protosses.
I've always been bad about that.
Oh, dude, it's one of the best things.
But the thing is, it's actually trickier than you think when you're trying to get the gas tech up and stuff.
Well, I
mean, maybe I'm just bad.
You're mostly just making Zealots because, you know, in Protoss 1A. But,
keep the Dragoons alive.
Yeah. So, anyways, that was really good with the Psy Storms and all. And if Last cannot protect another base coming up here, then this can quickly become a Stork victory.
So, Stork is got his entire army hockeyed. He's continuing to maneuver around the map. He wants Terran to constantly reconfigure his setup. A little bit easier for Protoss to do this in Terran, and that's why Protoss is trying to take full advantage of that. I guess he's going to go for it because the fact that he stays in, you don't just like doop-de-doop, I don't know, I guess I'll just stasis. That's a great location to get that over there. Now, we have the shuttle coming in here. The storms are what we want to watch for.
Some pretty good storms going off right there. Maybe not 100% perfect. There we go. That storm in the back is sick.
Okay, some more Zealots coming out over here too. Oh my God! I think Last might actually lose this game.
Yeah, he might indeed, Tasteless. This is kind of crazy to see.
You know, a lot of this goes down to the execution of these attacks here by Stork. He's just that good. Now he needs to get up there. Now the game plan for Last is to re-macro. Oh!
So funny.
The game plan here is for Last to try to come up here with another army and try to save these units from the stasis. I don't know how hard Stork was macroing while this was all going on. Is he going to get the storms? Actually, pretty damn good storms, to be honest.
Yeah, he does pretty well against all this, to be clear. Like, he kills off a ton of siege tanks, and if you keep resetting the siege tank count like this, it's super tough for Terran. Look at that bank. It's almost non-existent for Last.
I love the one Zealot running over here to the side to try to hit the SCVs. He wants to draw some Vultures back for the next big attack.
Vultures right now need to really be laying mines to kind of zone everything out so that his few tanks can cover bigger areas. If they don't have minefields in front, they aren't going to do anything at all.
Yeah.
While Stork is remaxing quite quickly here. He's got a lot of bases. I got to tell you, man, losing that Reaver, not doing too much, the push that kills 2 bases right off the bat by Last, I was not feeling Stork for this game.
I have to say, Stork is actually pulling off a miracle here. So
yeah,
he's remaxed.
He is really playing magnificently.
This is the moment where Stork has to come in here and drive last out of this side of the map or face a long game that Terran should be favored in. Now, he's got a shuttle over here. I believe that's full of Templars. I might be wrong, but of course the storm drop sort of screws everything up. Oh my God, here we go! No, we don't!
You did it! Oh, man. Well, if he had gotten that off, that would have been fantastic, but he did not. So, looks like Stork getting ready to attack elsewhere. The entire army, close to it at least, chasing around that shuttle right now.
I want to point out that Stork is very good with moving these observers around the map. It's hard when Terran pushes out with some Goliaths there and this science vessels. You've usually lost all the observers and the map's all dark and confusing, but not this time around. Now this, good targeting there by Last. Looks like he still has some Templars here. You can even storm the Vultures and it's fine.
Last is dead.
Yeah, this game is actually
this is it. This push kills this base.
This is why Stork has been viewed throughout the ages as the top 4 greatest players of all time. As strong as Last is,
amazing.
Currently viewed as the 2nd best Terran in the world, also the newest top pro gamer. It doesn't matter against somebody like Stork.
Dude, he lost 1 SCV to a speed shuttle Reaver and killed 2 bases with his push.
Yeah. I mean, this is Stork. There's so much to talk about here. Stork is so